Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar. This is the Koç University İş Bankası Artificial Intelligence Research Center presentation, and we're going to be also talking about our AI, PhD, and Master's fellowships today. We're going to wait a couple of minutes for everyone to join. We had a lot of interest in today's webinar, so we're expecting a very large number of people to join from very different time zones. So let's have a couple of minutes to wait for everyone to join until we get to the core of today. In the meantime, I'll go over some very brief ground rules about how today's session is going to work. So please know that because it's a webinar, as an attendee, you're automatically muted, and we're not going to be using the hand raising feature if you want to ask a question. If you want to ask a question, then please use the Q&A box that you can see at the bottom of your screen. Or we have also used a new tool, at least new for me, which is called Dory. If you go to the chat section of the webinar, you will find the link there. We asked you before the webinar to send us some questions about what you wanted to know about the center, the research projects, and admissions. So we have put those in Dory, and we will be answering them with our social or artificial intelligence robot as well, which is also very new for me and exciting. So we're going to answer most of the questions at the end of the presentation. The webinar is being recorded, and because you have registered for the webinar, you will receive the link to the video tomorrow. So about 24 hours later, we will be posting it on our YouTube channel by this evening. We should be, wrapping up around 2 hours, maybe a bit less, depending on the number of questions we will receive from participants. Besides the ones we already have received. And as I said, yes, the webinar recording will be sent one day after. So to give you an overview of the flow of today, I will be presenting a quick overview of Koç University. For those of you, especially who are joining from outside of Turkey, I might not be very familiar with our university. This is to give you a bit of context in terms of where does the research center sit and about the graduate school in which our graduate programs are hosted. We know that there is a lot of you who are also joining from Turkey, and you may find some new information about our university. Then we have Professor Denis Duret, who is the founding director of our Artificial Intelligence Research Center, who is going to give you an overview of the center, its activities, its highlights so far, and then introduce all of the faculty members affiliated with the center and research areas. This should take about half an hour. This is the really most interesting part, I think, for all of us to hear what our professors and our fellows are also working on right now and in the recent past. And then, of course, we will be answering your questions. For that, I will have the help from one of our faculty members, Assistant Professor Fatma Gunay, who has very kindly set up all the system to make this flow very well. So without further ado, I think we should get started. If you're new, you have never heard about Koç University, the main thing you should know about it is that we are a center of excellence that was set up a fairly short time ago, relatively speaking, in terms of universities. And the idea is that we will be, and we are providing world-class education and creating new knowledge for the benefit of society. That's our mission, and that's what we dedicate to every resource and time and effort that we put. So as you can see, in that amount of time, we are a very young university of less than 30 years old. We have now, we have a student body of about 7,000 students. Out of those 7,000, approximately 1,300 are graduate students, in which we have a very high level of diversity in the number of countries that are represented in our graduate programs. We also now have nearly 16,000 from our undergraduate and graduate programs, which are now working in research or in industry across all different industries and in a very large number of countries, not only in Turkey, of course, but abroad as well. Now, the secret to Koç University, in my view, and this is, it's very simple, but not every university gets it right. It's really our full-time faculty. There is a search worldwide for every faculty position that it's, offered at Koç University across all of our graduate schools and colleges. And we get the best applicants from, the best universities with track records in research in teaching and in other areas. And this is the people that we then bring to the university and give all the resources and support to do what they do best. When you hear our president talk about Koç University, our philosophy is one of freedom. You put good people together and then you let them be free and do what they know do best. So that's why, as you can see, our mission, it's about creating new knowledge and research that is at the cutting edge of every industry. For that, we have a very large number of laboratories, research centers, of which today we're presenting you more information about one of them. And currently we have 4 graduate schools, and today we're going to be talking briefly about the Graduate School of Sciences and Engineering, which is where we host PhD and master programs related to computer science, computer engineering, computational sciences, and other related fields. So when you think about why should you choose Koç for your master's or PhD studies, first of all, one thing to be just clear, all of our programs are offered in English. So you do not need to learn Turkish in order to be a fellow, for example, at for our fellowships or for other PhD and master programs. We do offer an American style graduate style of education in which you do have courses. It's not so much as the European or style. So you do have courses that you complete in 2 to 3 years in addition to your research. As I mentioned, faculty are the big reason why most people come to join us as graduate students, but we also offer, very small class sizes and a low student faculty ratio, which means very close supervision as a student. And of course, we have some of our fellows here today who can also talk about their experience of that so far. Some of the other reasons, it depends on how much, what importance do you give to different factors. But of course, our campus is a big reason that we enjoy being students here, especially graduate students, in terms of being safe, accessible, very beautiful, with a lot of culture and social activities. For international students, we also have dedicated support. We have an international community office that helps with everything before you arrive and once you have to settle in. Importantly, of course, where our alumni are, working after they finish their master and PhD degrees, it's clearly one of the key decisions why people join us. And I'll keep it to that. So if you're interested to know a bit about how Koç University ranks within, the region and worldwide, we are now the only university in Turkey in the top 500 by KUIS World University Rankings. We do very well as well in different categories such as young universities, in emerging economies. In terms of engineering, we're now also amongst the top 500 universities for engineering and technology. And when we look at rankings by subject, for example, our computer science and information systems ranking is in the top 400 universities worldwide. As I mentioned, alumni placements are very important when you're making a decision about where to go to graduate school. And this list is by no means, extensive. This is just a very, very small sample of where some of our grad students have found postdoctoral placements, or they have continued to do PhDs after graduation. I just want to show you a glimpse of our campus. Of course, you can find lots of aerial videos, virtual tours in our different channels and websites, and I invite you to do that. We missed our campus very much because we have been doing everything online, as most universities in Turkey for the past year. We do hope that we will be able to come back to campus this fall, but it's not certain yet. You may have questions about that, so I'll preemptively tell you that the answer is we don't know yet. We are preparing everything to be ready for either way, if we can do face-to-face or if we can do online education. Another part of our experience is, as I mentioned, a very diverse and intellectually engaging community of students, faculty, and staff. And it's not all about work, of course. You can see in this picture one of our professors, Applicant, with his group, enjoying, talking about what you love most in our beautiful campus. And again, for international students, we do have a lot of social and cultural integration activities, and not only for international students, but also for Turkish students. The library is a big part of your life as a graduate student. In that sense, I also invite you to check our main library, in which the biggest strength, it's really the electronic resources and access to databases and different opportunities that you have there, and to train as a researcher. Finally, our campus, it's very lively, and you will see that once you're here, and we have a cultural center where you will find options throughout the year. Finally, I do have a pitch here, which is if you're still not sure whether you want to pursue a career towards research or more towards, let's say, professional or industry placement after you have completed your your bachelor's degree, the Graduate School of Engineering is offering non-thesis master programs related to computer sciences and engineering, data science, and cybersecurity. And we're accepting applications for those programs for the fall 2021 and spring 2022 periods. If you want more information about this, you will find it all, of course, in our website, because I know some of you have questions of whether you want to continue in research or not. Finally, I will put this at the end of the webinar as well. If you're an international participant today, you can find more information about life as an international student in our main website, of course, YouTube channel, Instagram. And I'll put this now and we'll put them at the end. Of course, I guess you have already checked our Artificial Intelligence Research Center website, but I invite you to do that. And the thing that I love the most is that they have a podcast called Q&AI, and it has now several episodes, and they're really, really interesting to get to know, and talks and lots of different content if you're interested in this topic. So I invite you to check their Instagram where they put the links to the podcast. So I think I have kept to my time. So I'm going to now invite Professor Denis Duret, who is the founding director of the center, to share his screen and give us an overview of the center. Thank you everyone who has joined us a bit later. Just to recap, as Professor Denis is setting up, we will be, I kindly ask you to type your questions on the Q&A box or in the chat. And we also have a tool called Dory, and you can find the link on the chat.
Thank you, Melissa. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So I'm going to take a couple minutes introducing our center. The Koç University İş Bankası Artificial Intelligence Research Center, or KUIS AI for short, was founded about a year ago in collaboration with İş Bankası. So they made a very generous donation to get us started with the goal of being a leading institution on research, education, and industrial collaboration in the field of artificial intelligence in Turkey. So some accomplishments from our first year. Last year around this time, we made a similar webinar with, and the candidates showed great interest. We had very good applications from the best schools in Turkey and abroad. We ended up interviewing candidates for a week, where normally we do it in a day. We gave qualifying students fellowships and greatly enhanced our talent pool. So the size of our center, to give you an idea about our size, we have 15 faculty specifically working on AI-related fields, from computer engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. We have about 30 affiliated faculty from other departments like medicine, science, economics, engineering, and social sciences. We have about 100 graduate students, a little more than 100 right now. Last year, we were basically executing 20 sponsored projects. These are projects that are funded by TÜBİTAK, European Commission, British Royal Society, and other similar funding agencies. And finally, if you check our publication numbers, we had more than 80 publications in the first year of our founding. So other notable achievements from last year is basically we created 2 brand new offices, one in the Koç campus in Rumeli Feneri and one in downtown Istanbul in İş Towers. Unfortunately, as Melissa mentioned, we haven't been able to use them fully yet because of the COVID restrictions, but we're hoping that we'll be using them full time very soon. Also around the same time, we opened the second largest GPU cluster in Turkey, made it operational, and it has about more than 150 GPUs in it, and our students and faculty use it very actively every day. So I mentioned, in addition to research, education, and industrial collaboration among our main goals. So I want to briefly mention our activities in these areas. So for undergraduate students, we do have other opportunities like a summer research program, work study and independent study programs if you're a coach student, and certificate programs. Most important for you is the graduate student opportunities. So we offer increased AI fellowships and various grants to create sort of a good research environment for our students. We do also do public and professional education, run various programs, summer schools, winter schools, etc. Our faculty have many industrial collaboration projects ongoing with the largest companies in Turkey and some abroad. So having summarized sort of our first year, the next question I want to answer is sort of the application process and the scholarships, etc. So the first step to applying to become part of KUIS AI is basically you apply to the regular PhD and master's programs in Koç University from the graduate school website. So there is no separate application to our AI center. You have to basically qualify for a PhD and master in a related area. When you're applying, please specify an AI-related research area in your statement of purpose, so that we know that you're interested in working with us. And finally, during the application process, qualified candidates are sort of nominated by the faculty as AI fellows and interviewees. So we invite you for interviews and possibly a fellowship exam, and the process goes on after that. So what is the AI fellowship? So basically, it's we basically try to create a competitive fellowship for our graduate students. So the current salary for PhD and masters are as follows. To encourage students to progress in their research, we basically give them significant raises after their first qualified publications. We do have a lot of side benefits. Some housing aid or graduate housing is provided, private health insurance, meal subsidy, and various travel and computation grants are also part of the package. I also want to point out that AI fellowship is not our only funding source. It's one of our many funding sources. A lot of our graduate students, more than half actually, are funded by either projects that I mentioned before, the sponsored projects by TÜBİTAK, European Union, etc., and or Koç University itself. So, but this is basically a alternative funding source specific to our center. Next, I want to briefly introduce our research areas. I'm going to invite different faculty to talk about what each research area is briefly and what we're doing as a center. So computer vision is an area we're very actively working on. If Fatma Hoca can say a few words about our research in computer vision, that would be great.
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Fatma. I'm working on computer vision, especially autonomous driving, computer vision for autonomous driving as the main application. In computer vision, our goal is to extract some information from images or videos. It could be other sensors as well. For example, in autonomous cars, we have LiDAR sensors, which gives us 3D information. Otherwise, we can extract this 3D information from image or sequences themselves, or we can extract some semantic information. For example, as you see here, we can detect objects in the scene. We can detect the dog, the cat, the person, cars, and everything. Also, we can like track them if we have sequences. These kind of applications are usually related to a lot of problems that you can think of. It's not just autonomous driving, or it's not just, for example, it can be medical image analysis, it can be human-computer interaction. As you see here, there is a lot of intersection between the applications of computer vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatma. Next, we have a active group working on applications of AI in computational biology and medicine. Atilla Hocam, would you like to say a few words about our research in biology and medicine?
Yes. Hello, everybody. So biology is increasingly becoming information-driven science. We produce a lot of data with recent technology advances in biotechnology, from genomes, your genes, mutations, variations, proteins, which ones are expressed, which ones are translated, produced as proteins, how they interact, etc. Anything that, so we are trying to understand from this data how cell works, how something, how it is related to diseases. If something, for example, a mutation, which diseases are related, how we can find out which proteins to target to discover a drug, for example. So quite interdisciplinary area, from vision to, from images to sequences, lots of data is available. It will take time to explain all these problems, but the main purpose is to understand how biological cell works, and when something goes wrong, how it is related to diseases.
Thank you, Atilla Hocam. I should also point out that, as Atilla Hocam mentioned, this is a very interdisciplinary area, and we are lucky to have a very good medical school that we can collaborate with, and also a chemical and biological engineering department that we collaborate with. That creates a strong environment to study applications of AI in these fields. Next, we have machine learning. We do work in a lot of different sub areas of machine learning, including hardware, software, and theory. I'm going to invite Alper Hoca to say a few words about research we're doing in machine learning.
Thanks, Denis Hocam. My name is Alper Erdoğan, so I'm from electrical engineering. In terms of intelligence, there are different paths for the artificial intelligence. One of the main branches is machine learning, and it is based on the basically evidence from the biological systems that the intelligence emerges from learning process. So basically, in the machine learning, there are different ways that a system can learn from the data. And we basically investigate different areas in this scope. So we look at both unsupervised and supervised, as well as self-supervised learning algorithms. And we also have, now in terms of machine learning, you know that it's basically the main branch of artificial intelligence, and the practice is a little bit ahead of the theory. So we also look at something like the explainability of the current algorithms and how neural networks work, and also the representation learning mechanisms and their mathematical theoretical underpinnings. And also we have some interest in understanding the brain also, and maybe getting some inspiration from that, as it's the main learning mechanism, intelligent mechanism that's based on learning. So, and also one drawback of current learning systems is basically it's demanding on computation. So it's very critical that the hardware and software components are cleverly designed for that. So that's also one of the important aspects, for example, GPU hardware systems, as well as basically Denis Hoca is, for example, developing a platform for KNet for deep learning systems. So I guess that's pretty much what I want to say for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you, Alper Hocam. Next, we have the multimedia signal processing area. Engin Hocam, would you like to say a few words on this area?
Sure, Denis Hocam. Hey, everybody. So for multimedia signal processing, what we refer actually is processing of audio, video, motion type of modalities, and we are doing actually signal processing for these modalities, trying to understand, trying to compress. For example, Murat Hoca nowadays working on image video compression, deep video compression. Me and Yücel Hoca and Metin Hoca also looking into aspects of human-computer interaction from the perspective of applying multimedia signal processing to understand the relations between audio-visual relationships during human-robot interaction and so on. Yeah, that is broadly actually what we do. If you are interested, you can always write to us and contact to us. Our emails are up to date on the webpage.
Thank you very much, Engin Hocam. Our next area is natural language processing. Aykut Hocam, would you like to say a few words about our research in this area?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aykut. So in the field of natural language processing, we basically aim at teaching machines to understand and reason about natural language. And this is understanding language is a rather complex and very challenging task. And indeed, it involves many different subtasks, many different problems and applications. Like there are some classical problems like machine translation, part of speech taking, language modeling, and so on. So within our research group, in addition to these sort of traditional or classical problems, we are especially interested in what we call grounded language understanding. So if you think about the world around us, the majority of the word knowledge that we are actually interested in to teach machines are actually related to visual concepts. And in order to enable these models to really understand about this environment, we actually need to connect these visual and textual modalities together. So for example, recently there has been a recurring interest on learning common sense knowledge. And we believe that this is nearly impossible if our models cannot understand both vision and language. We are basically really excited about our ongoing projects. And there are also a lot of other project ideas we want to pursue. So I think that's it. Thank you, Denis Hocam.
Thank you, Aykut. The other field we work on is robotics. Barış Hocam may say a few words about robotics, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So there are different groups that do robotics at Koç. One of them is my group. We work on mainly robot manipulators, robot arms, for them to learn manipulation skills, both by themselves and humans. We also do human-robot interaction in Çağatay Başdoğan Hoca's lab. They do a lot of physical human-robot interaction and more on controllers, force, especially about force and haptics side. And there's also, in the context of human-computer interaction, there's an HRI work that's done by MVGL and IUI labs. I think we will see a nice demonstration in a little bit, so I don't want to spoil it for you, but I will give you a hint of what they do. And if you want further information, you can always look at our website or contact us directly.
Thank you, Barış. Last but not least, we have an active group working on systems and AI. This includes both building systems that are actually useful to develop better AI machines, and also using AI to improve computational systems. Didem Hocam, would you like to say a few words about our ongoing work?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Our research focuses on two directions. The first one, which I lead that group, system software for AI and supercomputing. So what we do is parallelization of deep learning frameworks, heterogeneous computing, and scalable graph analytics. And I suggest people here to check our website, because we have recently received two big grants from European Commission, total budget exceeding 2 million euros. And I'm actively looking for PhD students and postdoctoral researchers. The other direction of research here is the distributed system with machine learning, which is led by Öznur Özkasap, Professor Dr. Öznur Özkasap. And that group focuses on machine learning frameworks with software-defined networks. There is another interesting research area, also blockchain-assisted intelligent peer-to-peer services. Both scalability and security problems emerge there. And also they are looking at intelligent edge computing as well. So I highly suggest visiting the website of our groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Didem Hocam. I think that's all, and I would like to leave time for interactive questions. So I will stop here. Back to Melissa.
Perfect. I'm really glad we're sticking to time so that we will have plenty of time to answer all of the questions that were sent before and now during the event. What I have done is some of you have typed some questions in the chat, and I'm going to be putting them in the Dory tool. So I'm going to share the screen. No, sorry, I'm just going to leave it here. I'm going to ask Fatma Hoja to also help me on this part. So we received a mixture of questions related to admissions and others which are about the research that it's being done at the center. Some of them we're going to skip because they were already partly answered by Professor Denis during his presentation, but we will just answer them right at the end just to make sure that all that information about the scholarship offer or package and the requirements, it's clear. So the first question we have here that we received before today. So how to apply, I think we have answered them. And what are the admission requirements for the master's and PhD has also been answered. But as you know, as I said, we'll play it at the end, let's say. We have a question here where we would like, let's see, okay. So question 3 is how much scholarship does KUIS offer? What will be the fee structure for international students? So we have our social robot who is going to help us answer that. So I'm going to stop sharing now. So I'll have the questions on the back end. Fatma Hoja will help me with our robot. Yes, there he is.
It is important to note that the AI fellowship we offer is one of several sources of funding for AI students. Students may be offered funding from sponsored projects, Koç University, or other sources. The AI fellowship provides full tuition waiver for the MSc and PhD in computer science and engineering for the duration of studies for all students. Monthly stipend, 4,000 Turkish lira per month for MS, 6,000 Turkish lira per month for PhD students. As a performance bonus, there will be a salary raise after a qualified publication as first author, which is 1,000 Turkish lira per month for MS, 1,500 Turkish lira per month for PhD. 1,000 Turkish lira per month housing aid or housing, private health insurance and meal subsidy, travel and computation grants.
Thank you very much. Fatma Hoja, can you remind me the name of our social robot because I forgot his name?
Furhat.
Furhat, yes, Furhat. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Furhat. So I'm going to check now. We have question 4, which is about the admission requirements. One of the standard requirements for all of our graduate programs is to have a GRE or ALIS in the case of Turkish applicants and a TOEFL or other English proficiency exam. So the question was, is it possible to apply without GRE or ALIS and TOEFL or the other English proficiency exams like YDS or EYOKDİL? So let's see what the answer is.
Yes, it is. You need to write on your application form the dates you are going to sit for the exam, and you need to send us the score as soon as you receive it. If you get a conditional acceptance, then you need to present your score until the registration term.
So I hope that's clear. That's a very frequent question that we receive, especially this year, because of test centers being closed due to the COVID pandemic. So I will go now to question 5. Does KUIS AI have an AI fellowship program for undergraduate students? Furhat, what do you say about that?
No, but undergrad students can apply for summer internship at KUIS AI via Koç University Summer Internship Program. There are also work-study positions and independent study opportunities available for undergraduates.
Perfect, thank you. And this is one of our flagship programs at Koç University, or summer undergraduate research program. So I really encourage you that if you're still in your second or third year of your undergraduate degree, to apply if you can. If I'm not sure if the applications have already closed or not, they may have, but if not, make sure you take that chance. It's a great opportunity to experience our university and our faculty members and their research. So now I will ask question 6, which is, can a current grad student at Koç in a program with or without a thesis apply to the KUIS AI fellowship program? This is for our own students.
The AI fellowship candidates are nominated by the faculty. There is no independent application process.
Thank you for that. Okay, so these were some of the questions related to admission. Of course, we have received more today that we will be covering, so do not worry about that. Now, I would like to go through some of the other ones that have been asked. There is a very interesting question here, which I would invite some of our faculty members and perhaps some of our fellows who are here with us today to answer. What would be the most challenging part of the AI fellowship at KUIS AI? So I think I'll start with the director, with Professor Denis, to maybe give his input on that question.
Sure. So our expectation is for our graduate students to start research as soon as they step foot in the door. So that's number one priority. From the first semester they're here, everybody is engaged very deeply with research. So balancing the time that you spend on research and your teaching responsibilities and your classes, I think might be the most challenging part of being a AI researcher.
Thank you.
We should also ask existing AI students to see if there's any other opinions on this.
Yes, so we do have our A fellows here. If anyone would like to share your views, you can. I think you're able to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Ali Safaya. I'm working with Denis Hoca. I'm a PhD student. Actually, I'm doing a direct PhD student, a PhD study on natural language processing. So to me, it was like when you start to engage in research, and since I'm doing this in a direct fashion, so in my undergraduate program, I wasn't doing so much research. So I think the most challenging part is to learn how to start research on your own, to learn how to maybe learn things on your own, how to read a paper, how to think differently without the direction that is given by a teacher maybe. And also balancing life and other responsibilities as well.
Thank you very much, Ali, for your contribution. And I think that also answers another question I saw, which was about whether, if it was possible to do a PhD directly from bachelor's. That's exactly your case, and you have shared, what are some of the challenges with that. Is there any other fellow? Are there any other fellows who would like to contribute to answer these questions? What have you found the most challenging so far in your experience as a fellow?
Maybe we should turn the question around and ask, what did you enjoy most as AI fellows?
Yeah. So anyone?
Actually, I can answer that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we have a very big advantage in terms of resources. When we think about the computational resources, I mean, having such a computational power or such an easy access to GPUs or things like computational resources, etc. It's a very, very advantageous thing that we can do. We can conduct our research very easy way without having difficulties like this, or without, I mean, having the to think about these problems. Also, the grants are top in Turkey. And of course, like having access to work with such professors and such experienced people.
Thank you very much, Ali. The other fellows, please don't be shy. You can share your experiences here, which will be very valuable for those who are joining or thinking about applying for a graduate program and for the AI fellowship. So we have another question here that received 9 votes from all of you, which is, how can I increase my chances of getting accepted for the fellowship as a fresh graduate? What is the ideal candidate profile? Any key skills? So I would like some of our faculty members to from their specific research areas, any key skills that you're looking for, and yes, your ideal candidate profile.
Phdm hocam, since you're organizing the fellowship exams this year, would you like to comment on that?
Okay, sure. So thanks for attending that webinar, first of all. First of all, we expect every candidate to be good at math. So we expect you to have some mathematical skills, but they are like some undergraduate level, some probability background on probability and some linear algebra. And also we expect you to have good skills at programming. So we expect you how to write a program as well as how to write a decent program. So it is not just programming, but we expect you to show us some good programming skills. So that is the that is what we want to evaluate in the exam. So would you like to add other points, Denis Hoca?
I would like to invite other faculty if you want.
So I can chime in. Of course, like these are the fundamental mathematical and programming experiences are must. With a slight perhaps note that if you are, you do collaborations, and if you are mainly, for example, going to do collaboration in a, let's say, like a network or in biomedical engineering, we might, that's programming part might be a bit looser than general. However, to compensate for that, we would look for previous research skills, any experience in the tools that we may use. For example, you know how to use Python, but do you know how to use deep learning libraries, for example, even if you know the thing. So fundamentals are a must, and on top of those, previous research experience, practical experience with the tools that we are going to use. Of course, if you've written like a paper, that would put you way on top, I would say. And this is also important, impressing the faculty on interviews as well. By impressing, I don't mean boasting, but impressing with your answers to the questions that you are given, sort of.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
I think one of the most important skills is resilience, like not giving up, because things won't work most of the time. It's different from undergrad, it's different from taking courses. No one knows the answers. So giving up is not an option. Most of the time we have to try again and again. I think this is one of the most important skills.
But I think that's skills to survive, right? Not to get in.
I agree 100% with Fatma Hoca. So research activity is very, very different from your education up to this point. In your undergraduate education and before, the answers to all the problems were at the back of the book or on a website. When you're doing research, the answers are not anywhere, and some of the questions you will work on have no answers. So it is very important to actually, as Fatma Hoca suggested, be resilient, be a self-learner. You're going to be assigned tasks where you need to figure out a certain computational system, a programming language, a particular problem area all on your own. It is very important that you can actually work in a self-guided manner and be patient with yourself. Don't give up. I'd also like to pose this question to our existing fellows as well, so who are actively engaging in research right now. What are some of the skills that actually help you succeed in your own research, and what advice would you give undergraduates to improve themselves? Somebody other than Ali, possibly.
Maybe whilst they're thinking the question, we do some workshops about admissions to our graduate programs. And as Fatma just said, for example, resilience is a quality or a skill that you should demonstrate in the application. But it's hard, right? So you think, how can I demonstrate resilience in my previous experiences as an undergrad? So again, it's about your statement of purpose, articulating very clearly that if you, for example, took part in a group project or a course or in a student club in which you had to develop an activity, what were the challenges that you faced, and then how you overcame it either on your own or as part of a team. Like that's the things you need to demonstrate in the statement of purpose, and succinctly. Of course, it cannot be a 5-page journal about your hardships in life. So that's often a question that we receive about how do we demonstrate some soft skills, not soft, but like this sort of non-technical skills in a graduate application. Any fellows would like to contribute? We have shy fellows today. But yeah, okay.
Well, speaking of the SOPs, I'd like to add something. I think verbal abilities are important. Your ability to read and comprehend what you read, your ability to write and express your thoughts, that's also very important. Unfortunately, this is not something that you can learn overnight or in the remaining 3 or 4 weeks that we have. But I strongly encourage those of you who are going to take exams to take the verbal part of the exams seriously as well. And also make an effort to develop your verbal aspects after you get in. Because at some point you will have to write a thesis, you will have to write papers, you're going to need verbal abilities to do that. There's a saying, it's not over till the fat lady sings. A degree is not over until you publish a paper. And to get that paper published, you need to be able to write it and have it accepted. So it's just as important as your technical abilities.
Thank you so much, Metin Hoca. That's really, really valuable advice for any graduate prospective student. And I keep seeing there's really, really interesting questions coming up now in the chat, so I'm trying to keep up. There is a similar question on Dori, but with specifically, do we need some industrial experience before applying? Are there any of the groups that that you saw in the overview that it would be an advantage to have industry experience? If anyone would like to, any one of our faculty members would like to answer that.
Well, I would say having some industry experience before starting graduate school helps you appreciate graduate school more. So definitely, if you're the academic type, once you get exposed to the day-to-day working conditions and style of industry, you will really love doing your own research, minding your own business, setting up your own path and own plan. So I think I had 4 or 3 students who came from industry, and this was one of the things that they repeatedly said they loved about the academic side.
Great. Thank you, Metin Hoca. There's a related question that received 5 votes, so I'm going to tie it to that, which is more of a practical one. Can full-time private sector employees participate in this program? Can people who already have a full-time job do a PhD? Any part-time possibilities?
They can absolutely apply, but to do a PhD, you need to quit.
Yeah, so our PhD programs are designed to be done full-time. You're dedicating yourself on a full-time basis to.
So there are students who try to manage their jobs and their degrees at the same time. In my own personal experience, that formula unfortunately never succeeds, because artificial intelligence is a very competitive field right now, and the people you're competing with, for the same publication spots and conferences and journals, etc., that are working at places like MIT and Stanford, are working day and night on these problems. And because of your schedule, if the time it takes for you to get an idea to the level of a result and to write a paper on it, if that duration goes beyond a certain time, other people are sure to come up with a similar idea and publish something before you do. So because of that competitiveness, time is very important, and therefore I suggest every graduate student that will join our lab to be thinking of it as a full-time effort.
Great, thank you, Denis. So the next few questions are about the process. So I think they can be answered fairly quickly, and I will ask maybe faculty members who are in the admissions group to help us with this. So first question is, if we cannot be accepted in the early track, in the early application period for the fellowship exam, can we take it again in the regular track application period?
So for the fellowship exam specifically, again, it is by invitation. So if your faculty sponsor basically nominates you, then you can take it again. But it's not, something that you can apply for.
Okay. Now we have a question about, once you're a student and this received 5 votes, are students expected to start research from the first semester? And are there other expectations like teaching assistantships?
Yes to both. So there is an expectation for a teaching assistantship. We expect about 10 hours a week to have our students gain teaching experience, and research output is expected from the first day you step to our center. So it is actually the most important factor of us evaluating you. So your classes, your other activities are all in support of the research.
Thank you. There is a question, what is the acceptance rate of the early track fellowship exam? When will the results of the early track fellowship exam be announced? An estimate, number of weeks after the exam. Maybe Chidem Hoja can help.
Okay, so I believe that there is no like a quota for the acceptance. So if you're doing good in the exam, you will be offered the like fellowship. And for the the early applications, we will let you know the results. I believe that a week or 2 weeks later.
Great, thank you. We may have already started to answer this question. How difficult is it for a fresh graduate to enroll in a PhD directly? So people who want to do direct PhD. What is the procedure? I think the procedure is the same as for master and PhD programs. You just apply through the relevant program and indicate an AI related field or area of interest in the statement of purpose. But the question is more like, how difficult is it to be accepted to a PhD from a bachelor's degree? So I think Ali already sort of answered that as a fellow.
I should add that it is not difficult, and it is actually recommended. As faculty members, we actually prefer PhD students to master students because they're with us for a longer period of time, and there's going to be more opportunities to do good work with them. I don't think it will be more difficult because of the time limit is actually longer. I think in some ways a master's degree is more difficult because you are required to actually publish, and you start after your undergraduate and getting good in a field, gaining expertise in a field so that you can write a paper on it within, let's say, 3 semesters is a very, very challenging task. So for those of you interested in an academic career, I highly recommend application to PhD.
Thank you.
And also the financial benefits and other benefits are higher for the PhD, about 50% higher.
Any other inputs on this question? Okay. There's a question. What is the minimum GPA to apply for a master's degree? I believe there isn't a minimum GPA, but if you want to contribute some like in your experience, what you consider to be, a good indicator of a good GPA, let's say.
So there is no
a good GPA?
Yeah, there is no cutoff, and the reason there is no cutoff is basically every school has a different scale for their GPAs, and we're basically receiving applications from many schools in Turkey and in countries around the world. So every candidate is basically evaluated based on their own background,
right,
and the school they're coming from.
Perfect. Is it possible to get admitted without any publication? Does having a publication increase one's chances of getting accepted? I think Barış Hoca mentioned that of course, if you do have a publication, that does give you an advantage. But so is it possible to get admitted without any publication?
Of course it is. However, as Barış Hoca suggested, any research activity that you participated in, even if it didn't lead to a publication, is valuable for us to know.
Right.
As I mentioned before, research experience is very different than what you do in classes. So, for example, a good GPA, a 4.0 GPA, does not necessarily transfer to being a good researcher, because they're very different activities. But some research experience working on a problem that nobody knows the solution to, experience with that is highly valued in your application.
Great. Thank you. We have a question here from previous applicants. I have applied for an AI fellowship before, however, I was not able to pass the overall evaluation. Can I renew my application for the next semester and have a chance to take the evaluation again? I guess the exam is the question.
So again, the answer is the faculty must nominate the candidate.
Okay, so yes, they can apply. You would need to create a new application on the system though. Like your previous application does not renew, if that makes sense. So yeah, here is a question that maybe faculty members can talk about from within their specific research areas. What are the job prospects in research or industry after completing a graduate degree at KUIS AI? I mean, as a fellow.
Anybody want to go?
Well, I would say the prospects are fantastic. I guess some of my former graduates are now making more money than I do. So lots of opportunities in the industry, as well as in academia as well. We've had recent PhD graduates who've joined top programs, top universities as faculty members in Europe, in Turkey as well. So the prospects are excellent. And also prospects for a postdoc is also excellent, because we have a well-connected group of faculty here. So once you finish your PhD, if you want to go for a postdoc, you will get excellent placements there as well. And I think we have a list of our graduates in our webpage as well. You can see where our graduates ended up.
I would like to add something to Metin. We should add that we have international collaborators. All of us collaborate in our projects with people around the world. I personally collaborate with people in Japan, in Berkeley, in the US, a lot of universities and research centers in Europe. Also, in addition to the research centers and universities, we also collaborate with industry. I collaborate, for example, with GraphCore, one of the most innovative AI chip company right now. So there are a lot of opportunities basically once you graduate, because we are well connected. It will be very easy to, I guess, finding a job.
Thank you. Any other faculty members who would like to add to that? Okay, now we have a question about a specific area. What are the most popular applications of artificial intelligence in wireless communications? Who would like to answer?
I guess relevant faculty is not with us today.
Ah, okay.
I can take like a educated guess. Like we have Özgür Hoca and Sinem Hoca, we've been talking about what to do. One idea is how do you allocate wireless channels so that you use your resources optimally. And we tried like reinforcement learning for the multi-agent reinforcement learning so that each node in the wireless network decides which channel to use to communicate with each other and whatnot. And second thing could be turning these wireless networks into edge computing devices. This is less about wireless networks, but more about utilizing existing networks, but I think it's still relevant. How do you do like federated learning, like distributed learning using the resource on local nodes? The data might be different. How do you communicate? How do you minimize the communication cost, et cetera, et cetera. So using these small wireless networks for learning, both for privacy and utilizing resources at the edge. Cloud is some data center in US, for example, but edge is your current device. How do you utilize these more for learning? If anybody else wants to add, so that we didn't leave this unanswered.
I'd like to add some to this too. Actually, communications actually consists of layers. So I guess what Barış Hoca mentioned as applications of AI is for actually higher layers of communication systems. But for the physical layer too, there are applications of machine learning algorithms. For example, in the receivers, we use maximum likelihood receivers based on Viterbi algorithm and so on. So now currently there are some research going on in terms of replacing them with neural networks and basically combining conventional adaptive systems in physical layers with the ongoing machine learning algorithms. So that's one of the aspects of, so the physical layer is one of them. And also one of the issues that I also sort of worked on is the training used for is costly. So you need to learn the channel or immerse of the channel. So in terms of reducing the number of training symbols and so on, so developing learning algorithms for that purpose is also at the center of efforts in wireless communications with the intersection of the machine learning.
Thank you, Alberto. For those of you who are not from Turkey, by the way, please note that we refer to our professors as Hoca. Hoca means teacher. It might be the first time that you're hearing this, and that's why we say Alper Hoca, Denis Hoca. That means, for example, Professor Alper for us. So it's a very, I think, endearing custom in Turkey that if you're an international student, you will become used to it very quickly, and you will miss it afterwards if you move to another country. Okay. So there is a very practical question. What is the age limit for applying for a PhD program? And I can answer that there is no age limit for any of our PhD programs in terms of admission. So with that, I will answer that question. So we have a question here that received 2 votes. I'm coming from a background of chemical engineering with 4 years of computer science related work experience, developing Android and iOS applications. And I have gained a lot of online certificates related to AI. Can I still apply for the master's program? And the other question we have answered, like, do you require a different application for the master's in computer science? Do I need to apply again? No, you do not need to apply again if you have already applied for a master's in computer science and engineering. So I think maybe the question of someone coming with the background of chemical engineering, but with computer science related work experience.
So I can take that, Melissa, if you want. So my recommendation is all the applicants should apply to the degree that they graduated from. So for example, this chemical engineering applicant can apply to the chemical and biological engineering program that we have and indicate an AI-related research area. And upon acceptance, we will evaluate that application, and might be a very ideal candidate, for example, in our biology and medical AI research. If you apply in your own area, your chances of admission are higher. If you come from a different field and apply for a computer engineering master or PhD, your chances could be lower because we prioritize, computer engineering graduates for computer engineering master and PhD programs.
Great. We have another question for a specific research area. Does any professor work at the intersection of security and machine learning? For example, trustworthy machine learning.
So we have a whole program on cybersecurity, master's program, and there are faculty who are interested in the intersection of security and AI.
I think it would be okay to refer students to check Professor Altekin Kupçu's profile. You can also find it on the ai.ku.edu.tr website under people. You will find all our faculty members, summary of their research areas, as well as the link to their home pages where you can see detailed information about their specific and current research. So I will mark this as answered. Okay. Is it possible to work under supervision of 2 professors as a fellow?
Yes, and in fact, that is more common than you might expect. So a lot of our projects are joint projects where multiple faculty members work together. This might be because they're cross-disciplinary projects, for example, that we pursue with the medical school, or even within AI. We have projects that span multiple areas of AI. In particular, I'm involved with several projects that have natural language processing and vision. So we do form basically groups of faculty and groups of students into these working groups that work on particular projects. And a student will, there's a good chance that they will have more than one advisor when working on a cross-disciplinary problem like that.
And a related question: are we allowed to come up with our own area of research or topic, or they will be given by the KUIS AI professors?
So that is a very personal preference by the faculty, I think. There are research groups with very, very well-defined problems and projects, and they're specifically looking for candidates for those problems. And then there are more loose research groups that allow a degree of freedom to their members to pick their own subjects and problems. I think we have both styles. I would suggest the student to contact sort of potential faculty advisors and ask them what their style is.
Perfect. Now, an admission-related question. Will an applicant be admitted if he or she has excellent academic research, but graduated from an ordinary university in the world? So let's say not a top-ranked university in their country or worldwide, but has good academic research.
We try to evaluate applicants with all their sort of background information. So we will take into account all of the work they have done and the experience they have gained. So yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Another question for once they're a student, how many publications do you expect from a PhD student in a year? I guess that also depends a lot. But
I'm going to say greater than or equal to 1. Anybody else have any?
I would say greater than
group,
1.
Yes.
Sorry, that's per year, you said, right?
Per year.
Yeah, per year.
Right. I guess if you count journals and conferences and workshops as well, greater than equal to 1. But probably at least 2 quality journal papers or equivalents for the PhD, I would say.
So another thing is we do grade the students on their research. sort of activities and progress, and they do get a pass-fail grade at the end of each semester. So this is, something advice I got from Murat Tekalp Hoca. So every student in the group has to have, some new idea or some new project that either results in a publication or is on the way to result in a publication every semester to satisfy that research requirement.
Perfect. Thank you. There's a couple of questions. One is, do you conduct research related to biomedical engineering? And another one, which is, are you doing research related to computational biology? I mean, they're two different topics, but I'm wondering if maybe Attila Hoca can, he said yes, of course there are, but if you want to give any other examples.
Yes, and actually there is also biomedical graduate program as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in computational biology, there are a number of faculty. We have medical school, strong collaboration with medical school. I advise to check the contact with the professors in these areas for more detailed information.
Mm-hmm. And related to that, can students that have a purely computer science background with no biology background do research in computational biology and medicine?
Yes, it depends on the project, but for most AI-related projects, the student can acquire related biology background. It will not be that difficult, but also it depends on the project. Most AI-related projects, the answer is yes.
And also I can add, I'm like working on medical image analysis, and I have lots of collaborations with medical, the doctors in medical school. So based on all of my experience, actually there is no such kind of requirement. So if you're interested in such kind of areas, you can easily do it.
Thank
so
you.
There's no requirements.
We have several questions for you later on, Chidem Hoca, regarding medical image analysis. I'm going through the Dory questions, and then we'll go to the Q&A.
Sure.
So now there's a question about examples of robotics projects. Perhaps Professor Barish can give a few more details about current projects.
Sure. Let me start with mine. So we do robots. It's very difficult to program robotic arms. You need to do control. It's high dimensional. You need to coordinate with sensors, vision, etc. So it's difficult for engineers to program them. So instead, why don't we have these robots learn these skills that they, otherwise would be programmed? One idea is to learn from people. How do people come and teach these robots the human-robot interaction side? With this, the data coming from these, what we call naive users, is different. How do you learn from those? How do you learn from very little data? And also, do you change the learning algorithms or come up with new methods? On the other hand, we can sometimes define, we can detect if the robot is successful, even if we can't tell it how to be successful. In that case, we do trial and error learning, like reinforcement learning, we call it. How do we teach skills to robots via reinforcement learning? And you can combine these together. That's one side. The other side is how should robots act around people? Because if you've seen a factory with full of robots, they have very sporadic motions, fast, and it's very dangerous. How do you make it so that it's socially acceptable and understandable by people? For example, in Çağatay Hoca's lab, this goes to how do you physically interact with a robot? You have a robot arm. How can it assist you in tasks? For example, moving a table. How do you drill a hole in the wall? How do you communicate with the robot through the haptic channel by force? And we've seen the Furhat robot. We also have a physical version of that robot, and it's collaboration between MBGL and IUI groups. How should Furhat act with interact with people so that it comes more natural, comes across more natural and sort of socially acceptable? So these are some of the immediate projects. And of course, Fatma Hoca's autonomous driving, I personally put it inside robotics as well. And if there's anything I missed, please feel free to compliment it.
I can also add sort of cross-disciplinary work with natural language processing. So when you combine language with robotics, you have problems like how do you actually have robots understand natural language instructions, and or how do you use the robot's senses to build certain concepts that we express in language, like verbs and actions, and how to tie them to the forces and positions of the robot's joints. So there is a lot of sort of connecting robotics to other parts of AI as a source of problems as well.
Thank you. Now, there is a question, I guess, from a participant in Turkey saying, what are research problems in machine learning related to health? Can you give some examples of their application to health problems in Turkey?
So since this student is asking specifically about health, so we should, I should say the use of machine learning in health is ubiquitous. Atilla Hoca and Çiğdem Hoca can give some examples.
Okay, so I can give some examples, but these examples are not limited to the applications in Turkey. So these are the problems that have been worked like all over the world. So that's a very hot topic nowadays. So for example, I'm working on digital pathology. So in the case of digital pathology, the aim is to interpret the biopsy slides. So it involves lots of like research related with machine learning, deep learning, computer vision. So the idea is to find the abnormalities in a tissue slide under a microscope as a pathologist like does. Or for example, you may find a research application in which CT images are analyzed. So you still find some, for example, abnormalities in CT images or MR images. So there are lots of imaging modalities. Or for example, to help the biologists make analysis better, you may work on the microscopic image analysis. So these are all research areas that we actively working on. And there are lots of problems. And again, as Denis Hoca mentioned before, so we have a very good medical school. So there are lots of collaboration possibilities. So we can always define a problem that you're interested in. Of course, we need data, but again, we have a medical school, so actually it gives us a very good opportunity to work, to make some good work or world-class work in that area.
Thank you, Çiğdem Hoca. Another research-related question: for autonomous vision research, do you apply sensor fusion and use other sensors like LiDAR, radar, or event cameras? Are there any research opportunities using event cameras? If there's any groups working on projects that are using event cameras.
I can answer this question. So actually, we have just started working with event cameras. So first, let me just briefly describe what is an event camera for those who don't know this term. So in classical cameras, the sensors basically measure the intensities, whereas in event cameras, they solely focus on measuring the changes in the intensity values, and they are really both energy efficient and quite effective in the dark. So in that project I mentioned earlier, which is a collaborative project with my twin brother at Hacettepe University and with Fatma Hoca, we are looking at ways to convert event data into an RGB stream. So I can say yes to this question. There are a lot of different opportunities as well.
Thank you.
And also yes for LiDAR. If you're interested, you can contact me.
Perfect. Thank you, Jan. There is a practical question. I wanted to inquire about the starting date of the position. So if you're selected as an AI fellow for a master or a PhD program, then you would start with our fall 2021 semester, which we are expecting will start either end of, well, the first day of classes is in September, 13th of September. And there is some previous, there's a registration of graduate students that happens before. One thing that I'm not sure if we mentioned that in the previous presentation, but the AI fellowships are open for starting in the fall semester, so fall 2021, but also in the spring 2022 semester. I just want to clarify that. Okay, so we have answered this. Similar question. I am a mechatronics engineer, but my research interest is in AI. Could I apply for AI scholarships? And I think Denis answered this. So the advice is try to apply to, for example, our mechanical engineering master or PhD program, but express in your statement of purpose that you're interested in an AI related topic. Another practical admissions question. I have applied for an MS in computer science and engineering at Koç University. Am I eligible to also apply for AI? So yes, but you need to indicate that AI or a topic related to AI is one of your interests, either in your statement of purpose or in the areas of interest that you have to choose. If you have already submitted your application, and you are able to withdraw actually your application and create a new one in case you didn't indicate that clearly in the application. So another research question. Does NLP for Turkish contain a big part in your studies? If yes, is your research usable for the automatization of written as free text customer care processes?
So the answer is yes. We do have interest in Turkish NLP. I have several projects supporting that. One of them is something that we're doing with TÜSİAD and other corporate partners called the Turkish Data Depository. One of the things that has been missing in the Turkish NLP area is a central resource for data and models. We can find such resources for other languages like English in UPenn LDC or other European languages from resources like ELRA. However, such resources have been largely limited to individual researchers' web pages until now. And currently we have a team of students working on creating a new website for sharing and developing new Turkish resources, corpora, and models and tools with researchers and industry who are interested in doing Turkish NLP.
Thank you, Denis Hoca. I think this was partly answered, but it's worth maybe repeating. Do you work in groups or does everyone have their own project as a fellow?
Both are present.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And how many applicants do you select as master and PhD students for the fellowships?
There is no hard limit. We just look at the qualifications of the candidates, and we try to accommodate all the qualified candidates that we can.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Are there any project openings in machine learning? The answer is yes. If you want to give more specific examples.
Yes.
Upcoming projects, perhaps that new fellows in fall will start working on.
Right. So as Alper Hoca mentioned, machine learning is a very wide field. It interacts with many different parts of AI. So there's sort of the theory side where we try to understand machine learning systems. There is the sort of applied side where we apply machine learning to different problems. There's the hardware and software engineering side where we basically work on better hardware and software systems to support machine learning. And in each of these areas, we have ongoing projects right now, and we're actively looking for students.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I may have forgotten other projects as well, so please jump in if you have something related to machine learning.
Okay. Now, are there any research projects in the field of computational neurosciences in the AI lab at KU? If yes, may I know the supervisor or research group?
Alper Hocam, do you want to?
I actually wrote an answer to that, but there are some faculty members who are interested in the aspects of neuroscience and potential inspirations from neuroscience and machine learning. I myself is interested in that. For example, we are currently working on developing algorithms which are so-called biologically plausible, in the sense that the learning rules are basically not using the classical backpropagation algorithms, but local learning rules. So we are therefore basically actively following the literature on both neuroscience, computational neuroscience, as well as the interfacing region where people are trying to develop basically biologically plausible supervised algorithms, which you can call biologically plausible backpropagation algorithms. But I mean, there's a neuroscience community within the Koç University, and potentially some joint works with them, although they may not be directly related to the lab, is potential research activity. And I guess there are some other faculty members who basically worked on stuff related to computational neuroscience. For example, Engin Hoca worked on audio-related stuff in the computational neuroscience. Maybe if he's around, he may comment on that.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, I'm going to try to jump back to the Zoom questions so that we're checking both, because maybe some of you have posted it on both sides. There was a question here that I wanted to address. Are there any research project goals that promote collaboration with computational social sciences?
Yes, there are. So there is in particular one example I can give with Erdem Yörük Hoca from sociology. We have a ERC project that is looking into social unrest and the effects it has on policy changes around the world. So we do collect data from more than 5 developing countries in the form of newspaper articles. We use NLP algorithms to analyze these newspaper articles and categorize them into sort of protest events and other events. And we use information extraction algorithms to identify, if there is a protest event, who did it, where did it happen, what was the result, etc. And all of this basically becomes sort of data for social scientists to go over and extract sociological results. But we do use NLP technology to streamline this process.
Thank you. I'm going to jump to a couple of questions that might be for some specific, people who have completed their PhD. So, are you opening postdoc positions? Could you give information about the conditions and application procedures that you're looking for in this regard?
Yes, we do have about a dozen open postdoc positions right now, and we're actively looking for candidates. You can find the application information and the other details on our website. And if not, just please contact us via email, and we'll direct you to the appropriate resources. But the answer is yes, we do have open postdoc positions.
Perfect. Thank you. And there is another project. How can we do research on our sponsors' project? Is there any way for my industrial sponsor to be in touch with KUIS, starting a new industrial collaboration, I mean?
The answer is yes. We have many ongoing industrial collaboration projects, and we do actively work with companies. One criteria, though, is that in order to be used in an academic setting, the topic of the research has to be innovative. So it can't be just a development project. It has to be a research project. And that means it can't be just an application of known technology to the problems of this particular industrial partner, but it has to involve a component of developing new ideas so that it has a original component that can be published. As long as that is satisfied and an interested faculty advisor can be found, we're open to industrial collaboration projects.
Thank you. This is a question, I guess, about how to present yourself in the application. It says, do we need to have specified knowledge in our prioritized research area in the order field preference list? For example, I have experience with mostly NLP applications, but not much with image processing. Will it be harder for me to choose computer vision, both in terms of application, being admitted, and studying this?
No, we do not expect any prior experience. Prior experience is always good, as I said. Having dabbled in research is always a good idea. But we don't, if you have experience in NLP, of course, I'm sure the computer vision colleagues of mine would be interested in working with you if that's the field that you want to switch to.
Great. Now we have some admission practical questions. Are all scholarship or fellowships announced after admission to the master or PhD programs? And there was another question, which was, are the fellowship exams results announced before the program admission decision?
So again, the fellowship and the graduate school admission are sort of two independent processes. The AI fellowship is only one of the possible funding opportunities. So your potential faculty advisor will contact you about possible funding opportunities, and they might offer you funding from their own project, they might offer you funding from school, or they might say, I'm going to nominate you for the AI fellowship. And so it's basically something to discuss with your advisor on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Can students take courses from other departments like psychology? Also, is it convenient to decide research topics on the road, after you have joined?
The answer to the first question is absolutely yes. We do have many cross-disciplinary projects, so we encourage people to encourage our students to get a as wide a background as possible. The answer to the second question is also yes. Of course, you can change your research topic, or if your interests shift in one way or the other. However, it will cost you time compared to a student who basically sticks to a field from day one. You will basically have to work harder or longer to catch up in your second field of study.
Thank you. Here we have a question, which is, are there any ongoing projects regarding AI's relation with law and AI use in legal industries at KUIS AI? Also, is there any possibility to participate in the center as a student researcher or in any other ways as a LLM, as a master's in law student enrolled here in Koç University? So if it's a master's student from another program at the university, for example, in law.
Yes, so we do have both very strong connections with the Koç Law School, and we recently formed a partnership with Bilgi University Law School to work on sort of specifically regulations related to AI. Leyla Hoca from Bilgi is representing Turkey in the European Commission in drafting these regulations, and we are working with them, providing input from the technology side. In addition to these, we do have a couple past and present projects which work on, for example, Turkish legal search. So developing NLP technologies specifically for Turkish legal texts to provide sort of input to potential commercial products that for the use of legal professionals.
Thank you. Does online certificates obtained from edX and Coursera increase my acceptance rate, especially those which were part of MIT Machine Learning MicroMaster?
Yes, any research-related activity, being it extra courses, online courses, studying with a research group in your own school will all sort of increase your chances of success as a graduate student.
Okay. There is a specific question for Denis. My research area in mathematics is related to the fuzzy set theory, where we used to define aggregation operators for different types of fuzzy set extensions and apply them in decision-making problems. So can I work in AI? Can I apply my work in AI? What are possible directions?
So I am not, my expertise is not in fuzzy logic. However, as I mentioned to the other sort of cross-disciplinary candidates, the best course of action is to apply for graduate study in your own field and specify an AI-related research topic, and participate in one of our many cross-disciplinary projects. You can find a list of affiliated faculty on our website from different departments.
Okay. I think there's a question for our faculty members working on computer vision field. So these participants says, I have 3 published conference papers in the computer vision field. And my question is that in addition to the general requirements, what will increase the chance of master applicants in this specific area? If there are any specific, other things that you have found in previously admitted candidates for computer vision research.
A computer vision person can jump in.
So you make contact with the faculty member. So you can send your publications to that faculty member, and it is it may increase your chance. And also you can put these the names of the publications in your statement of purpose. So just let us know what kind of publications you have.
Great. There is a question here, which had been asked before. So is it possible for students to work part-time and get any fellowship from the university? If it's no, does this apply to the base stipend too, the monthly stipend? Also, can an accepted student apply for fellowships later in the year in the context of working in the industry and quitting and applying later? So I guess I will rephrase the question. So for example, if somebody receives an admission offer to the master or the PhD program as a fellow, can they defer their start for the next semester?
So there isn't a specific rule for this case. These types of cases are evaluated on a case-by-case basis in collaboration with the faculty advisor. So I advise this particular student to contact their potential faculty advisor to see what they feel comfortable with.
Okay. We have a question here. I'm a mechatronics engineer and I have published in machine learning and computer vision. So I would like to know which one fits me more. I guess for which area should they indicate their interest?
I don't quite understand the question, but
so for example, whether they should apply for mechanical engineering, which is
yes, my general advice is that you should apply for master or PhD in your own field and indicate your research interests in your application.
Great. Now we have an interesting question here. Once you're a student, how is the GPU cluster scheduling handled? Is there a central authority that does this scheduling, or is it decided on a per student limit basis?
We use a system called Slurm, and we do have various rules to balance the needs of students. And we do change the system based on student needs. It's a constantly evolving set of rules. So, hopefully, we balance the need for urgency with the need for, being able to run long jobs. And so far, our students seem to be mostly satisfied.
Thank you. There are several questions which are from candidates who are saying they have received their bachelor degrees from universities where the medium of instruction is English, and they have written their thesis in English. So this was answered by a robot before, but I'll just repeat it again. You can apply without TOEFL, but you need to indicate on the application form that you have not taken it yet. But you will need to provide a TOEFL or YDS if you're a Turkish applicant, or one of the eligible English scores in order to enroll, to register as a student once the once the full semester starts. That's the requirement of the Graduate School of Sciences and Engineering. So I hope that answers those questions.
Actually, one more important thing, I think, like, sorry, but this is actually not GCSE, this is coming from the government, yeah. So there's nothing we can do. Like there's nothing we can do about this. This is, we get this question a lot, also in other programs as well. There is nothing we can do, and you have to take the exam. Like, this is out of our control.
So how about for native speakers?
There are
still, I think.
Oh no, but
yeah.
If they're from England, we're not going to test their English, I'm hoping.
No. So if their citizenship is from an English native speaking country, then they are exempt from providing an English proficiency test. And the graduate school has a list of the countries which are under that list. But for example, Pakistan, India, Nigeria, they're not on that list. So unfortunately, candidates from these countries do have to take an English proficiency test, even if their university education was in English. Okay, because I know yes, it's a very frequent question that we receive for all of our graduate programs. I'm just checking now. Now I'm going to the top of the Q&A section. Some of them we have.
So I think we should probably wrap this up in the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay, all right. Are there any other from the faculty members? I know you're also checking some of the questions here. Are there any others that you want to answer live, you know, for everyone to hear? There is a question here about monthly consumption in university, and I guess you're referring to expenses. I like to answer that for those international participants. In our website, we do have resources where you can see an estimate of the budget that you should have as an international student to cover your, you know, food, local transport, you know, health insurance that you will need at the beginning or every year. So please do check our website. I will put the link on the chat now as well, because you can find that information there. And there's also some tools like numbeo.org. I'll type it in the chat as well, where you can, based on your lifestyle choices, you can see how much it would cost you to live in Istanbul if you want to live on your own or shared accommodation, commuting by car or by public transport, and other choices. Let's see if there's any other questions here we have not answered before. There was a question about AI, machine learning, and cyber and information security. Are there fellows who have similar research interests that would love to guide me through this journey? So if we have any fellows here right now who are working on cyber security or information security, perhaps we can, you know, if you write to us afterwards, we can try to put you in touch with some of the fellows who may want to volunteer to share their experience, perhaps via email. Okay. Let's check any other questions. Okay. This is my second master. Can I take part in your program and get scholarship? I think the answer is yes. There's no limit in terms of previous degrees you may have already completed. Okay. Is the date of the fellowship exam determined? Maybe Chidem Hoja can, if not, you know.
Actually, no, for the new applications.
Okay.
But we should add that it will be after the application deadline.
Yes. So
probably within 2 weeks or so, 2-3 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if there are any others. If not, then I like this last question, if maybe some of our professors like to answer by, remember a recent student, does KUIS lab professors support their master's students to pursue PhD at top global institutions? I think the answer is yes. If you want to talk about the process of how you support the students, what it entails. I mean, we talked about international collaboration with different groups, but if there are any other examples that come to mind, then I would ask you.
So the first answer is, of course, we'd like you to stay for PhD with us. However, if you have, set your mind on other institutions in other countries, your success, your academic publications and record and work will be the most important determiner of the type of school you will get admitted to. The contacts that KUIS AI has and the collaborations with other institutions definitely play a role in this as well.
Okay. There was a question here. Do the professors have any tendency towards converting their research projects into a startup company? I wonder whether the aim of publishing a paper is just getting a good academic placement or not. I'm curious about the practical or industrial opportunities and collaboration.
I would say both. So there are things that we do for science and there are things that we do for practical applications. AI is a sort of two-faced field, right? So one, the scientific purpose of AI is to understand intelligence using computational methods. And the technological purpose of AI is to use what we have learned in order to build products and tools that are useful. So you will find both types of work at KUIS AI. We do have startup spin-offs. We do have collaborations with both external startups and large companies. And we do have academic and theoretical work as well.
Thank you, Denis. There is a question, I guess, about transfer. So if the person is currently in his first year of PhD at another Turkish university and he wants to apply for the AI fellowship, should he mention that in the application in order to increase his acceptance rate? Does that give an advantage or not really?
Any research related experience would be an advantage. So they should definitely paint as complete a picture of their background as possible, I would say.
Okay. Now on the chat, I just have a question that I think it's important for those who are now in their bachelor programs. The deadline of the summer internship, the summer research program at Koç just passed. Is there any chance that I can join the labs this summer? What would be your advice?
Yes,
The deadline,
I have been asked this question recently before by an acquaintance, and I contacted the QSRP management. Unfortunately, they do not accept official applications right now. However, you can contact the faculty that you want to work with, and they will nominate you for that position.
Thank you. I think that's important because yes, we do have a very large amount of interest in the program from Turkey and outside as well. So I think with that, we're going to wrap up today's webinar. I think it's been great in terms of, learning more about the center, about the fellowships. I hope we have answered all of your questions. As I said, of course, the first source of information should be the ai.ku.edu website. Let me share my screen briefly to bring that back up. Sorry, just bear with me a second. Yes, so these are the places where where I strongly advise you to now, after today's webinar, to go and check our faculty members, their homepages, their research group, their current students. You can see the fellows there. Please do check the podcast because it's really great to have an idea of what everyone here is working on, and to follow them on social media, of course.
May I add one thing? Because
yes,
these are not updated, I think. Labs will be replaced by center.
That's true.
KUIS AI.
I realize this is from last year. I have to apologize for that. So, but the website is correct. So if you go to the website, then you will find from there all of the correct handles for social media channels for the center. And
Melissa, if I'm not mistaken, for people, if you have friends that have missed the webinar, we will put a recording of this on our website as well.
Exactly. So, the webinar is being recorded. We will put it in our YouTube channel tonight, and you will receive the link from Zoom to watch the video at your leisure later on and share it with other friends from tomorrow onwards, okay? And of course, you can email any questions to the center. If you're an international applicant and have more questions related to living here, moving here, etc., then you can email us to study@ku.edu.tr. So with that, I want to thank all of you for joining us today from different parts of the world, from Turkey. I know it's the end of Eid, of Ramadan, so I hope that you enjoy the rest of the weekend. And I thank you so much to all of our professors who also joined us today and shared their experience and their views on the program and their research. So with that, I would like to say bye to everyone. If you want to say any last words, please do so. You have a couple of minutes now.
Thank you for everyone for attending.
Thank you.
We hope to work with some of you in the near future.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And thank you to our social robot Furhat as well. He made his debut today, and I think we will continue seeing him in the future at our next round of webinars. So thank you.
Special thanks to yes. Let's add special thanks to Ege for preparing these videos for us, our fellow Ege. Kesim.
Thank you. I think we will use them for our own webinars as well very soon. So I will be in touch with Ege.
Great.
I'd also like to thank our organizers, Melissa and Estihan, for all the work they've done to bring this together. It was a great event. I hope it'll be useful for potential applicants.
Perfect. So thank you, everyone, and then have a good rest of today and evening. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.